Once again, very good afternoon, everyone. How are you all? So, last class we were discussing Ind AS 19. We have completed up to means we have done short-term employee benefit. Then we started post-employment benefit. Under that, we have done defined contribution plan. Now we'll do defined benefit plan. So what we have discussed that post-employment benefit are of two types: defined contribution plan, then defined benefit plan. So what is the difference between defined contribution plan and defined benefit plan? Just try to understand. In defined contribution plan, entity is liable to contribute in a plan, and the same amount means that amount will be equal to the amount contributed by employee in that plan. With both employer and employee will contribute in that plan. That plan will be a separate entity, correct? And once the amount is contributed to plan, then the obligation of entity will be over, correct? Now means entity is not entity is not required to contribute if separate entity of plan asset is unable to pay to the employee. Means the investment and actuarial risk will fall on employee. Therefore the amount contributed will not be recognized as an asset, that will be charged to profit and loss account as an expense once uh, once the entity is liable to contribute. Yes sir, correct. Now in case of defined benefit plan, the defined benefit is a plan which is announced by the entity. Defined benefit plan is a plan which is announced by the entity for the benefit of the employee, and of course the amount is payable after retirement. Amount is payable after retirement, in which the benefit is defined, but the amount of that benefit is not known. Means what will be the amount of obligation, that is not known, correct? Now suppose a gratuity plan is announced. Suppose a gratuity plan is announced, and gratuity plan is like that कि every employee of the company who has worked for minimum 5 years, who has provided minimum 5 years of service, they will be entitled to 20%. They will be entitled to 20% of their final salary. Final salary means the salary at the time of retirement. Final salary. Are you able to understand what I'm saying? Yes sir. So I'm just giving one example. Just try to understand what I am saying. Ki one gratuity plan has been announced by the entity, and under that gratuity plan, what is the benefit? Ki any employee who has completed 5 years of service, then that employee will be entitled to 20% of final salary. 20% of final salary, correct? Understood? Multiplied by number of completed year of services. Correct? Understood? But can I say the benefit is defined, but what will be the amount of payment, that is not known. Why? Because right now final salary is not known. Right now number of completed year of service is not known. Right now, can I say we don't know what will be the growth in the salary. We don't know we don't know at which point of time employee will retire. So can I, there are many uncertainties attached to it. So because of that reason, can I say we need to estimate. There is no doubt about estimation. So we need to estimate the amount, the estimate of we need to estimate the amount of benefit at the time of retirement under these uncertainties only. So what India's 19 says ki even though there are a lot of uncertainties, but we need to estimate the amount of benefit which is payable at the time of retirement. And for this estimation, we'll take the help of actuaries. So we'll take the help of actuaries who are expert in the fields of estimation. So we'll take the help of actuaries. So who will do such type of estimation? Actuaries will do such type of estimation. Once the amount is estimated, then that amount will be allocated to what? The estimated number of year. That amount will be allocated to estimated number of a year, and therefore such method is known as projected unit credit method. Means what Ind AS 19 says, you will apply projected unit credit method for the recognition of employee benefit expense under Ind AS 19, for recognition of employee benefit expense under defined benefit plan as per Ind AS 19. Correct now. Now in this, when we recognize the expense, three types of expense we need to recognize. One is known as current service cost, one is known as interest cost, and one is known as actuarial gain or loss. So these three gain or loss will be recognized under which plan? Defined benefit plan. I hope you are understanding correct now. And in this plan, there is no need to contribute to a separate entity. Means this defined benefit contribution plan can be either funded or it can be unfunded. Means either to entity may decide to contribute to a separate entity with an amount equal to current service cost, or entity may not decide to contribute. Means it can be funded or it can be unfunded also. Are you able to understand? So of course we need to understand, when it is funded, then what will be the accounting treatment of that funded plan. Understood? Yes sir. So what they say, point number one, under defined benefit plan, entity's obligation is to provide defined benefit to current and future employee. Defined benefit plan is a plan where benefit is defined but the amount of obligation or contribution is not defined. In this plan, employee contribution is not required. However, such plan can be funded or unfunded. Means employee contribution is not required, but employer may contribute or employer may decide not to contribute in the amount of contribution to a separate entity. Investment, if the amount is contributed, the investment risk and actual risk will fall onto entity. Means in this, if the amount is funded, means in case of funded plan, in case of funded plan, the investment risk and actual risk of the plan will fall onto employer, because if the amount is contributed to separate entity, the separate entity will pay to employer, not to employee. Means can I say all the investment risk or actuarial risk will fall into whom? Will fall onto employer. Correct now. Now to determine the current service cost and present value of DBO. DBO means defined benefit obligation. Means obligation means liability. So present value of DBO will use projected unit credit method. So what is projected unit credit method? I will explain with one example. Now to calculate present value, discount rates should be determined by reference to market yield of government bond as on reporting date. So discount rate will be equal to market yield of government bond as on reporting date. However, this will be given in the question. Correct now. Now actuary will estimate the amount of obligation under various uncertainties on the basis of actuarial assumptions. So there are many actuarial assumptions need to be taken for calculating the amount of obligation. There are two types of actuarial assumption. One is known as demographic assumption, one is known as financial assumption. Demographic assumption means labor turnover rate, mortality rate, retirement rate, mediclaim rate. Correct now. So these are the demographic assumption. Financial assumption is what will be the discount rate, what will be the growth rate in salary, etc. Understood? Yes sir. Correct. Understood? Now what I will do, I will take one question, and from that question I will like to explain the entire accounting treatment of this. Yes sir. So come to example number 1. A Limited announced a defined benefit long-term bonus plans to pay benefit at the end of 5 years. Amount of bonus will be 40% of last drawn monthly salary for each year of completed year of service. Salary of 2018-19 is 40,000 per month. Growth rate in salary is expected to increase by 8%. This is expectation. per 8% per annum compounded annually. Discount rate as on 31st March 2019 is 10%. Calculate current service cost, interest cost and present value of defined benefit obligation for each year. Very simple question. So let me do this question from your point of view. Have you understood what we are discussing? Yes, sir. So in this, what we do? First, we'll calculate expected. First, we'll calculate expected last drawn salary. So last drawn salary will be 40,000. 40,000. And can I say it will increase by 8% every year. It will increase by 8% every year. So it will increase by 1.08, 1.08, 1.08 for 5 year will take. So when 40,000 is for the first year, then this become for second year, this become for third year, this become for fourth year, and this become for fifth year. Means compounding will done only for what, 4 times. Compounding will be done for 4 times. I hope you have understood. Correct now. So this become last drawn salary, monthly salary. Monthly salary, yes sir. Now we'll calculate what? Projected benefit. So what was the benefit given in the question? It was 40% of last drawn salary multiplied by 5 year of completed service. So 40% of last drawn salary multiplied by 5 year of completed services. So it will come 1,08,840. Now we'll allocate this benefit in how many year? 5 year. We allocate this benefit in how many year? 5 year. So this method is known as projected unit credit method. Projected unit credit method. So allocated benefit to each year will be this by this, means we'll divide by 5 year. So it will be 21,768. Can you see this is what? Future value. This is future value. Yes. So this is the amount of obligation which is payable at the end of 5 year. So this is the future value. Now we'll find out a present value of allocated benefit. So calculate, we'll find out present value of allocated benefit, and that will be the amount of current service cost. So current service cost is the amount recognized as an expense for the current year. Yes. So we need to find out year end 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Correct. So allocated benefit is this 21768. 21768. Now we'll find out discounting. We'll do discounting at 10%. Correct, at 10%. Now one thing is very important. Can I say, just try to understand, this amount is payable. This amount is payable after 4 year. Means right now we are standing at this point of time. This is year end 1. Means we are recognizing employee benefits expense for year end 1, and this service is already provided, and this is the at the end of 5 year. So whatever allocated benefit, that allocated benefit is payable after 4 year now. So it means we'll do discounting for how many year? 4 year. Correct? Are you getting what I'm saying? So this become the present value of this allocated benefit, and that will be the amount of current service cost. Similarly, this is for 3 year, this is for 2 year, this is for 1 year. Correct? And this is for what? Year beginning. Are you able to understand? So what we'll do? We'll find out present value at a rate, present value factor at a rate of 10%. So this is for how many year? 4 year. Means we can say at the end of, means after 4 year. This is after 3 year. This is after 2 year. This is what? After 1 year. And this is on the same date. So this is one. Understood? So we need to go reverse. This is very much danger. A student can do mistake यहाँ पर. So this become the current service cost. This is the amount of current service cost. Have you understood this point? This is the amount of current service cost. Yes sir. Now once you calculate current service cost, now we'll find out what? Now we'll prepare one liability statement. Liability statement. So liability statement we are preparing at year end 1. Liability statement at year end 1 for how many year? 5 year. So liability statement at year end 1 for how many year? 5 year. So this is the present year. Then these are the 4 future year. For future year. Actually this liability statement will be given in actuary report, and we take all the amount from actuary report only, but in exam we need to put this liability statement. So we start with opening obligation, then we'll add interest cost at a rate of 10%, then we'll add current service cost, then it will become closing obligation, correct? So first year there was no opening obligation, then there was no interest cost, and first year what is the amount of current service cost? That is 14,868. So this become 14,868. So what journal entry will pass? Current service cost account debit to present value of DBO. Current service cost account debit to present value of DBO. Correct? Can you see this will become opening obligation, and then we'll add 10% interest on this, then we'll add current service cost of second year, this will become closing obligation, and so on we'll calculate, and so on we'll calculate. So this will be the amount of what you can see, this is the projected benefit. Last year interest will be taken as balancing figure, last year interest will be taken as balancing figure. I hope you have understood. Correct. So can you see we have recognized two expense for the first year. The one expense, that is current service cost, to what, present value of DBO. When there will be interest cost, then our journal entry will be interest cost account debit, current service cost account debit to present value of DBO. Understood? So guys, this we are prepared at the end of first year. Can I say at the end of second year, there may be some changes. There may be some changes due to changes in actuarial assumption. Due to changes in actuarial assumption, just try to understand. This liability statement is for first year, but in second year we need to do reassessment of this liability statement if there is some changes in actuarial assumption. So what Ind AS 19 says, if due to changes in actuarial assumption, if the opening liability is changed, so any difference in opening liability due to actuarial assumption is known as remeasurement gain or loss, and that remeasurement gain or loss is also known as actuarial gain or loss, will be transferred to OCI. That will not be charged to PL, that will be transferred to OCI as actuarial gain or loss or remeasurement gain or loss. Understood? So let me take one more example what they have given everyone. Example number 2. Suppose in the above example, discount rate is 13% at year end 3, means changes was done at year end 3, and the growth rate in salary is expected to increase by 10% per annum compounded annually from year 3. So from year 3 it will increase by 10% per annum. Prepare revised liability statement at year end 3. I hope you have understood the question. Correct now. So let me come to the solution. Correct. Now just try to understand. Can you say now we'll do reassessment of all the calculation at year end 3? Means one thing is clear that for second year so no reassessment required. The first year second year journal entry is already done. Now we are coming to the third year. Correct. Now so third year once again we'll calculate last drawn salary as per the changes in actual assumption. So now they said from third year onward the growth rate will be 10%. So for first year and second year it remains same, means 40,000 first year, then multiply by 1.08, then we'll take 1.10, and 1.10. This is for third year, fourth year and fifth year. So of course your last drawn salary will change. If last drawn salary will change, your projected benefit will change, and now projected benefit will be 40% of last drawn salary multiplied by 5 year. Correct. Now so this becomes the total projected benefit. Now once again we'll allocate this projected benefit to each year. So this become 23,000. Correct. So allocated benefit. Now once again we'll find out current service cost for this allocated benefit, which will be present value of this. So current service cost year 1 these 5 year 23,000, present value factor at the rate of 13%. Correct. Now understood. This is y0, this is y1, this is y2, this is y3, this is y4. Okay sir. Then we can find out current service cost. But can I say this is already, this 2 year is already recognized as per old assumption, and this amount is as per new assumption. Means can I say now opening liability need to be adjusted as a difference between old assumption amount and new assumption amount. The difference will be either actual gain or loss. I hope you are understanding. So now once again we'll prepare revised liability statement. So can I say on 31st March 19 and 31st March 20, whatever we have done as per old assumption, that will come as per old assumption. So you can see we have taken current service cost this, then this becomes this amount. But this is not as per new assumption, this is as per old assumption. Correct. Now this amount will come, then interest cost will come, then current service cost will come. This will become closing obligation. Now in this statement I have intentionally added one more point, that is plus minus actuarial gain or loss. So First we'll do plus minus actual gain or loss, then we'll calculate interest cost. So first always write down actual gain or loss, then interest cost, then current service cost. Understood this point? Now can you see this 32,709 is based on old assumption? Now we need to find out what will be the liability, opening liability as per new assumption. As per new assumption, what will be the opening liability as per new assumption? So we can prepare one working note for this calculation of actual gain or loss. So opening balance of DBO as per old assumption, that is already calculated. Now we'll find out opening balance as per new assumption. So how to calculate this? So there are two ways. Either you can prepare liability statement of year 1 and year 2 as per new assumption, means you can say that you can see that we have taken 41,106 as per new assumption, then this become what, opening liability for second year, then interest cost, then this is current service cost of year 2, this become what, closing liability of year 2 as per new assumption. Or what we can do, what was the allocated benefit, 23,000, for 2 year it become 23,000 into 2, and that is payable, means at year end 2, that is payable after 3 year. So we can discount, we can make a discount at a rate of 13% for 3 year. This case, this way also you can do, means 23,000 into 2, you calculated 23,000 into 2, correct, and you multiplied by present value factor, payable present value factor at 13%, which is payable after how many year, payable after how many year, 3 year. So same amount will come 31,883. So we can take this amount 31,881, and the difference will be what, actuarial gain. So if the liability decreases, that is a gain. If liability increases, that is a loss. So actuarial gain, what journal entry will do for actuarial gain? The journal entry is what, present value of DBO, present value of DBO to what, to actual gain, which will be transferred to OCI. So this will be to actual gain which will be transferred to, OCI. Understood this point? Have you understood this point? Bolo. Any doubt? Have you understood this point? You can see we have deducted actual gain 828. So this become what, opening liability as per new assumption. Then we'll add interest cost at a rate of 13%. Then this become current service cost as per new assumption, correct. Now then this become opening liability, then interest cost, then current service cost, then we can do this become projected benefit as per new assumption. So I hope now you have understood what is the meaning of actual gain or loss. Understood this point? Yes, sir, we have understood. Correct? Understood? Yes, sir, we have understood. बोलना रे? Yes, sir. So I hope you have understood these two questions. Yes, sir, we have understood. Now let us come to the accounting treatment. So accounting treatment of defined benefit obligation. Defined benefit obligation. So first, current service cost. What is the meaning of current service cost? It is increase in present value of DBO resulting from employee services during current period. What journal entry? Current service cost to present value of DBO, and current service cost will be charged to PL. Then actuarial gain or loss are the changes in the present value of DBO, arising from, resulting from experience adjustment. Experience adjustment means the difference between estimated and actual. So the effect of difference between the previous actual assumption and what has actually occurred. So normally actual situation will come when that benefit is paid, but that difference will be also known as actuarial gain or loss. Understood? Yes, sir. And due to the effect of changes in actuarial assumption, so what they say, this actually gain or loss will be recognized in OCI without recycling. Oh, this will be without recycling. So this will be without recycling means it will never be recycled to PL. It will never be recycled to PL. Correct? Understood. It without recycling to PL as reimbursement, gain or loss. So it will be recognized as reimbursement gain or loss in OCI. So what is journal entry? If there is an actual loss, so journal entry will be I said reimbursement. No, sorry, remeasurement. I said reimbursement. No, not reimbursement. It is remeasurement. ठीक है ना? Due to so much hectic classes, कभी-कभी ऐसा होता है. Don't think much about this. It is a remeasurement gain or loss. I said reimbursement. आई थिंक सो इंडिया 37 याद आ गया. तो दिस इज रीमेजरमेंट गेन और लॉस. तो व्हाट विल बी जर्नल एंट्री? रीमेजरमेंट loss on DBO to present value of DBO which will be transferred to OCI. Correct now. If there is an actuarial gain, so journal entry will be present value of DBO to remeasurement gain on DBO which will be transferred to OCI. I hope you understood. Interest cost is calculated by applying discount rate on opening balance of DBO after changes in actuarial assumption. So it will be applied on opening balance of DBO. What journal entry will do? Interest cost, account debit to interest cost, account debit to present value of DBO, and interest cost will be considered as what? It will be transferred to PL. Understood? I hope you have understood. Yes, sir. Then accounting treatment of plan asset. Plan asset means that defined benefit plan are funded. So this will arise only when defined benefit plan are funded. Funded means what? Employer will contribute an amount equal to contribution. Sorry, employer will contribute an amount equal to current service cost where in a separate entity. Normally what happen, this amount are not a small amount. This amount of benefit will be a large amount for a big enterprise. It will be in crore, 1000 crore, 2000 crore, such type of provision we should create. Can I say? So we should make a planning for that. Whenever we want to plan our life, always we do some investment. Correct? Now we do some investment so that we can keep the money set aside for some specific purpose. So what they said, there can be a separate entity, and an entity will contribute the amount of current service cost every year to this plan. Of course, this is known as plan asset. This separate entity will do investment and they will get return on this investment. Correct? Are you getting? Now this separate entity, after deducting the administrative cost, will give entire amount when demanded by the entity. Will demand when demanded by the entity. Means this amount will not be paid to employee. This amount will be refunded. This amount will be paid to the entity when demanded. When entity will demand, when the employee will retire. So when employee will retire, some amount is payable by entity to employee. So first they will withdraw the amount from this plan asset and pay to the employee. This is the concept of this plan asset. Understood? So this plan asset, because the investment risk and actuarial risk of this plan asset fall onto the entity, therefore we need to create one asset. We need to create a asset. Yes, sir. We need to create a asset. So what is the journal entry? For contribution to plan asset, journal entry is plan asset account debit to cash or bank. Plan asset account debit to cash or bank. For benefit paid out of plan asset, first we'll withdraw some amount from plan asset and then we'll pay to the employee. So our defined benefit obligation will decrease. So when you withdraw some amount from plan asset, journal entry is cash or bank account debit to plan asset and will pay to the employee. Journal entry is present value of DBO to cash or bank. Understood? So this amount is normally equal. Means always whatever we withdraw, that only we pay, but it can be different in different circumstances. But if question is silent, they said benefit paid means same amount is withdrawn from plan asset. So this you need to understand. If question will say benefit has been paid, so benefit paid means same amount has been withdrawn from plan asset. Are you able to understand what I am saying? Yes, you are able to understand. Correct. Now for recognition of interest income on plan asset by using the discount rate, so what India's 19 says, you will not calculate actual return right now. We'll calculate interest income based on discount rate, based on the same discount rate whatever we have used for DBO, based on the same discount rate whatever we have used for DBO, and interest income will be calculated. So what journal entry will do? Plan asset account debit to interest income on plan asset, interest income on plan asset, interest income on plan asset. Understood? If question is silent, we'll always assume, कि the contribution and the benefit has been paid, at the end of the year. If the question is silent, we'll assume that contribution to the plan asset and benefit has been paid out of plan asset at the end of the year. If that assumption is taken, then this interest will be always calculated on opening balance. This interest will be calculated on opening balance of plan asset, opening balance of plan asset. Are you getting what I'm saying? That assumption has been taken means if the contribution and benefit is paid in the mid of the year, so of course can I say we need to do some adjustment for the calculation of interest. Understood? I hope you understand. Yes, sir. This also you understood. Now we'll find out remeasurement gain or loss. Remeasurement gain or loss on plan asset. On plan asset means initially we calculate remeasurement gain or loss on DBO. Now this is remeasurement gain or loss on plan asset. What they said, कि first we'll calculate actual return. So what they say, actual return on plan asset. So what is the actual return that we need to understand? Actual return. What is the return on plan asset? So first we need to find out actual return. Correct now. So how to calculate actual return? What is it? Actual return will be calculated as under. That will be fair value of plan asset at the end. Fair value of plan asset at the end. Then we need to find out carrying amount of plan asset at year end. Fair value of plan asset will be compared with the carrying amount of plan asset at year end. Carrying amount of plan asset at year end will be equal to fair value of plan asset at year beginning, add contribution received, less benefit paid. Correct now. If you compare these two amount, then the difference between these two amount will be the actual return on plan asset. Actual return on plan asset. Correct now. Understood? Means you can see we have not adjusted interest income. So this become total return. Now suppose your total return was 10,000. Your total return is 10,000. Correct? And interest income calculated based on discount rate. Interest income calculated based on discount rate is suppose 8,000. Means what Ind AS 90 says, this is an expectation. This was the expectation of plan. This was expected. And this is the actual. Actual. Means can I say actual is more than expected? So this become gain. So this gain should be recognized separately and this gain will be transferred to OCI. So this difference will be also known as remeasurement gain, or you can say actuarial gain, which will be transferred to what? Which will be transferred to OCI. It can be reversed also. Ki actual is 10,000. Actual is 10,000. Correct? Actual is 10,000 and expected is 12,000. Means your expectation was 12,000 but actual return is 10,000. Means can I say you are not able to meet your expectation. So difference will be known as loss. This difference will be known as remeasurement loss, which will be also transferred to OCI. I hope you are understanding. So first we'll calculate actual return. Then we'll find out remeasurement gain or loss. So remeasurement gain or loss will be equal to what? Actual return on plan asset. Correct? Less interest income included in net interest cost. I'll come to what is the meaning of net interest cost. So interest income calculated based on discount rate. Means I can say in this way, interest income calculated based on discount rate. Interest income calculated based on discount rate. Correct. Now discount rate. Understood. So this will be remeasurement gain or loss, which will be also transferred to OCI. Understood? Correct now. So what Ind AS 19 says, actual return on plan asset excluding amount included in net interest on defined benefit liability or asset. Means this is nothing but amount included. This is nothing but interest income calculated based on what? Based on discount rate. Are you getting what I am saying? Based on discount rate. Yes, sir. Understood this point? Yes, sir. Correct. So any difference between actual return and interest income already calculated based on discount rate, that will be remeasurement gain or loss, which will be transferred to OCI. So for actuarial gain, you can say actuarial gain on plan asset. So the entry will be plan asset to remeasurement gain. For actuarial loss on plan asset, the remeasurement loss to plan asset. Understood this point? This point have you understood? Yes, sir, we have understood. Correct now. Let us take one question based on this. Let us take one question based on this. One minute. So I need to take one question based on this. Chalo, I will take the question of this only given in summary book. Example number 3. X Limited has a plan asset having fair value at the year beginning 1 lakh. During the year, plan asset paid benefit 10,000 and received contribution of rupees 40,000. Discount rate is 10% per annum. An expected rate of return on plan asset is 15%. Fair value of plan asset at year end is 1,25,000. You can see the date is not given, so we can assume contribution and benefit at the end. We can assume this. So this we can assume on 31st March means at year end. Fair value of plan asset at year end is given 1,25,000. Actual return on plan asset, interest income on plan asset, calculate actual gain or loss. Correct now. So first we'll find out. First we'll calculate actual return. Yes, sir. So how to calculate actual return? Bata. What is the fair value of plan asset at the end? That is 1,25,000. 1,25,000. Then we need to find out carrying amount at end. Carrying amount at end. This is fair value at end. So carrying amount of at the end will be fair value at the beginning. That is 1 lakh plus contribution how much? 40,000 plus contribution 40,000 and plus minus 10,000 is what? Minus 10,000 is the benefit paid. So it become 1 lakh 30,000. So you can see there is a actual return which is negative. There is an actual return negative. Negative is what? 5,000. Yes, sir. Correct. Now, what is the expected? Means interest income. What is the interest income on plan asset? So if we assume that contribution and benefit paid is at the end of the year, so interest income will be calculated by using discount rate. So you can see they have given discount rate as well as they have given expected rate of return on plan asset. This is bakwas. This expected rate of return is on plan asset is bakwas. You have to calculate interest income based on discount rate. Based on discount rate, that is 10%. So can you see interest income will be on opening balance. Opening balance is 1 lakh. 1 lakh into 10%, that is equal to 10,000. Correct now? Understood? So your expectation was 10 lakh, but your actual is negative 5,000. So what is the gain or loss? Of course, so we'll find out now. Remeasurement, remeasurement loss, remeasurement loss. So what is the remeasurement loss? Can I say it is actual return minus interest income, that is minus 5,000 minus 10,000 is equal to 15,000 is equal to 15,000. Understood? This is negative. So this is what remeasurement loss which will be transferred to OCI. Means if you prepare a ledger account of plan asset, then what will come? But what is the opening balance? Opening balance is 1 lakh. Then how much contribution received? That is 40,000. Then how much benefit paid? That is 10,000. Then what is the interest income? Interest income based on discount rate 10,000. And you can see the difference will be what? Difference will be 15,000. Check karte hain. Correct now. Something is Sorry. What happened? 1 lakh into 10%, 10,000. Everything is correct? Yes, sir. So this become 1 lakh. What is the closing balance? Closing balance is what? 1 lakh 25,000. So this difference is coming how much? Check karo. So 1 lakh 50,000 minus 1 lakh 35,000 is equal to what? 15,000. So this become actuarial loss. This is what? Remeasurement loss, which will be transferred to OCI. Which will be transferred to OCI. Understood this point? Have you understood this point? Now, if an exam, whenever contribution and benefit pay date is not given, always assume at the end of the year. But it might happen they have given. Suppose the contribution and benefit paid was made on what? Mid of the year. Mid of the year means on 30th September. Suppose it was made on 30th September. Then what you will do? Of course, then you need to calculate interest income based on that. Let us see how to calculate answer on that ground. On that ground. Correct. Can I say in that case, first once again we'll calculate what actual return on plan asset, that will be negative 5,000. In this no changes. Now we'll calculate interest income. Interest income will be what? On 1 lakh. First we'll calculate on 1 lakh for 12%, on 1 lakh on 1 lakh 10% for full year, so that will be 10,000. But can I say you have received contribution on at the mid of the year and benefit paid is also at the mid of the year, means increase in plan asset mid of the year is 30,000. So on this 30,000 also you will calculate interest income. So on 30,000 you will calculate interest income for 6 months. First 6 months this will be 1,500 and that become 11,500, and the difference between these two will be what? Remeasurement gain or loss. Remeasurement gain or loss. So of course there is a remeasurement loss, that is 16,500, which will be transferred to OCI. Which will be transferred to OCI. Understood this point? I hope you understood this point. Yes sir, we have understood. Correct? Any doubt? No doubt. So this also you have understood. Plan asset also you have understood. Understood plan asset? Yes sir. Now coming to the past service cost. Past service cost. Now whenever a plan is amended or modified, a plan is amended or modified, correct now? So due to that plan amendment or any plan is introduced for the first time, correct now? Just try to understand. Suppose you introduce a plan at this point of time and this is 2 year already expired, correct now? For this 2 year already employee has rendered services, correct now? So on this date when you introduce a plan, there will be some past service cost. Now the question is that we need to recognize past service cost, whether this past service cost will be deferred or will be charged to profit and loss account immediately. This is the question, correct now? Or there may be some modification also. If there is some modification in the plan, due to that modification, can I say there will be some increase due to that modification, there will be some past service cost. So that past service cost will be charged to PL immediately, or it will be deferred and will be recognized during what? Future period. That is the point. So what Ind AS 19 says, past service cost, which is the change in the present value of DBO for employee service in the prior period resulting from plan amendment. Plan amendment means what? Introduction of a new plan, a withdrawal of a plan, or changes to a defined benefit plan means modification, or a curtailment. Curtailment we have done in share based payment also. Curtailment means when you seize any plan due to what? Due to closing down of any factory, etc. You need to retrench employee, so you need to curtail the number of employee. In that case also, uh, a significant reduction by the entity in the number of employee covered by the plan. So curtailment means what? Reduction in the number of employee. reduction in the number of employee. So past service cost is the changes in defined benefit obligation due to plan amendment or due to what curtailment. Means either they can be increase in present value of DBO or they can be decrease in present value of DBO. Correct now? Yes, sir. Means Ind AS 19 requires entity to recognize past service cost as an expense as and when plan is modified or amended or curtailment occur. Means this past service cost will be recognized as an expense as and when the plan is modified or amended or curtailment occur. This past service cost can be positive or negative. Positive or negative means if there is a curtailment, of course the past service cost will decrease. Past service means your present value of DBO will decrease. The past service cost can be negative or it be positive. So when I am saying negative, it means it is reduction in what? Reduction in employee benefit expense. It is reduction in employee benefit expense of that period. It is not a gain. It is not a gain. So this past service cost can be positive or it can be negative. If positive, then journal entry is past service cost to present value of DBO. If negative, then then it is what? Present value of DBO to past service cost. Understood? And this past service cost will be immediately transferred to PL as an expense. Understood this point? I hope you have understood. Correct. Then gain or loss on settlement. So whenever there is a curtailment, so curtailment can be with or without settlement. So if it is without settlement, okay. If it is with settlement, then there is some payment done. So we need to calculate gain or loss on settlement due to curtailment. Due to curtailment. So what's it? A settlement occur when an entity entered into a transaction that eliminate all further legal or constructive obligation for part or all the benefit provided under a defined benefit plan. So a settlement occur. The gain or loss on settlement is the difference between the present value of defined benefit obligation on the date of settlement and settlement price. Correct. So what journal entry will do? Present value of DBO to cash or bank and difference will be what? Gain or loss on settlement. This gain or loss on settlement will be also transferred to PL. This gain or loss on settlement will be also transferred to PL. Understood this point? Have you understood this point? Yes, sir. We have understood. Correct now? Yes, sir. Then presentation of DBO and plan asset in balance sheet. Presentation of DBO and plan asset. To what Ind AS 19 says कि the fair value of plan asset at year end will not be shown in the asset side. It will be shown as a deduction from what? Present value of DBO. So present value of DBO less fair value of plan asset will be equal to what? Net liability of DBO, which will be either non-current liability or current liability as the case may be. Correct? Understood? Now one question arises, sir, if the fair value of plan asset is more than this, so there may be some surplus. Surplus means amount receivable from plan asset. Amount receivable from plan asset. Are you getting what I am saying? Surplus. Then what need to be done? Whether the surplus will be shown as an asset or what? Correct now. So what Ind AS 19 says, if the present value of DBO is less than fair value of plan asset, then plan asset has surplus. Plan asset has surplus. Yes, sir. Now, whenever there is surplus, when entity has a surplus in defined benefit plan, it's a measure the net defined benefit asset. Now it become net defined benefit asset. Defined benefit asset, not obligation. Net defined benefit asset as a lower of, so that it shall measure the net defined benefit asset as a lower of surplus as calculated above. Means this amount surplus as calculated above, and the asset ceiling determined using discount rate. Asset ceiling, a new term in your life. The asset ceiling means there is some ceiling in the asset when there will be surplus as per the contractual agreement between entity and the plan asset. So there may be some ceiling. So that asset ceiling need to be calculated. So what is the meaning of asset ceiling? This is the present value of any economic benefit available in the form of refund. From the plan or reduction in future contribution to plan. So whenever there is surplus, then what? There may be a contractual agreement between entity and entity and what plan asset, that surplus will be refunded or surplus will be given by some from the contribution, means the contribution amount will be reduced. So this is the present value of any economic benefit available in the form of refund from the or reduction in the future contribution to the plan. So that present value will be asset ceiling, correct? Now so suppose the present value is coming 10,000 and the surplus is what 12. So these two, the plan asset means the defined benefit asset will be lower of this, will be lower of this, will be lower of this amount. Understood this point? Have you understood this point? Why? Because this is only recoverable from plan asset, recoverable from plan asset. Understood? Yes sir, I hope you have understood. Correct? Have you understood this point? Yes, sir. Now, remeasurement gain or loss comprise of three items. We have understood remeasurement gain or loss comprise of three items. First is actuarial gain or loss on DBO. Second is actuarial gain or loss on plan asset. I can say this is actuarial gain or loss on plan asset. Means difference between actual return and interest income calculated based on discount rate. Yes, sir. And changes in plan asset ceiling means due to remeasurement of plan asset. Remeasurement of plan asset, whatever changes is coming, that will be also transferred to OCI. So these three together is known as remeasurement gain or loss, which will be transferred to OCI, Understood this point? Have you understood this point? Yes, sir. We have understood. Correct. Yes, sir. We have understood. Understood. Now, in exam, they sometimes ask you to do reconciliation of DBO and plan asset, or they may ask you to calculate remeasurement gain or loss. So this statement is very important from examination point of view. Either it can be prepared on net basis, or it can be prepared on separate basis. I will I will suggest prepare on separate basis, but sometimes suggested solution is given on net basis also, but net basis में थोड़ा confusion हो जाता है, correct ना? Now how to prepare that reconciliation? So we need to reconcile carrying amount of DBO and plan asset at the beginning and at the end. This will be given in the question. Yes, sir. Then we'll add current service cost in this. Means here current service cost will not be added. Then net interest cost to income. What is the meaning of net interest cost to income? It is nothing but interest cost minus interest income on plan asset. Interest income on plan asset. So if interest cost is more than interest income, then it is net interest cost. If the interest cost is less than interest income, then become net interest income. And what Ind AS 19 says that net interest cost to income will be transferred to PL. So can I say interest cost will come यहाँ पर, interest income will come यहाँ पर, it will be added? Yes sir. Then past service cost will be added यहाँ पर, will not be adjusted यहाँ पर. Received, contribution received will be adjusted in plan asset, will not be adjusted यहाँ पर. Benefit paid, तो कहने से benefit paid will be reduced from both DBO and plan asset. The benefit paid will be reduced from both DBO and plan asset. Then gain or loss on settlement, will be adjusted from this, will not be adjusted from this. Then difference of this reconciliation will be remeasurement gain or loss, which will be transferred to OCI. So Ind AS means as per examination point of view, either they ask you to calculate carrying amount of the at the end, or they may ask you to calculate remeasurement gain or loss. So this will be remeasurement gain or loss on DBO, this will be remeasurement gain or loss on plan asset, correct now? Understood? Means if the amount is coming positive means gain, if the amount is coming negative means what? Loss. Correct now? Means acha. If this is positive, then gain. This is negative means loss. But यहाँ उल्टा होता है. If the liability is increasing means if this is plus, so this is loss. If this is decreasing, then gain. Understood? This is also a special point. Or you can do on net basis also. Means we can also prepare net defined benefit liability on net basis, but I will suggest that prepare on gross basis also. This will be easy to understand. I hope you understood this chapter. Correct. Let us take some question based on this. Let us take some question. come to question number 10. Question number 10. Question number 10. RK Private Limited is an old company established in 1911. The company started with a very small capital base and today it is one of the leading company in India in this industry. The company has an annual turnover of 11,000 crore and planning to get listed in the next year. The company has a large employee base. The company provided defined benefit plan to its employee. Following is the information relating to the balance of fund asset and liability on 1st April 2011 and 31st March 2012. Means they have given opening and closing. This is the present value of obligation, opening closing. This is the fair value of plan asset, opening closing. For the financial year ended 31st March 2012, service cost was 55 lakh, means this current service cost. The company made a contribution of an amount of 11 lakh to the plan. No benefit were paid during the year. Consider discount of 8%. You are required to compute the balance of the company to be included in the balance sheet as on 31st March 2012, an amount to be recognized in SOPL and other comprehensive income. Give journal entry in respect of the amount recognized. Very simple. Correct? Yes, sir. So, can I say, first we'll calculate what? First we'll calculate net interest cost. Means, just try to understand. They have given, if nothing is given, always we'll assume contribution has been done at the end. With that assumption we have taken, yes sir. Now this is the opening balance of DBO. This is the opening balance of plan asset. So again, this is the net liability. On net liability, we can calculate net interest cost by using the discount rate. So that has become net interest cost. Or you can calculate individually also. This is 8%, this is 8%, this is interest cost, this is interest income, and same amount will come. Net interest cost, understood. Now we'll calculate what? Calculation of remeasurement gain and loss. Remeasurement gain loss. So for DBO and plan asset we'll do together. Yes sir. So this is carrying amount at the beginning. Yes sir. Then current service cost will be added. Yes sir. Will not be adjusted here. Then contribution received with 111 will do in plan asset. Then net interest cost individually will come. So interest cost will come here. Interest income will come here. Then minus benefit paid. So benefit paid is not given. Benefit paid is not given. So can I say this become closing balance after this? Closing balance after this. If you compare this with the carrying amount at the end, so you can see the carrying amount of the at the end, this is what? Decreasing or increasing? So 1567 become 1580. So this is increasing. Liability is increasing. So this is remeasurement loss. Yes sir. And you can see this is also plan asset is decreasing. So this is also remeasurement loss. The total loss become what? 80.2, which will be transferred to what? Which will be transferred to OCI. I hope you are understanding. Have you understood this point? You can see liability also increases and the fair value of plan asset is also decreases. Therefore, both we are getting loss. The total loss become 80.2. Now extract of balance sheet will be net defined liability, under that non-current liability. So this will be closing balance minus closing balance. This is the net defined liability. Yes sir. Then in extract of PL, under employee benefit expense we write down current service cost. Under finance cost we write down net interest cost. And under OCI we write down remeasurement loss 80.2. Have you understood this point? Very simple. This type of questions are expected. Means they may ask this type of questions. Bolo. Any doubt? Have you understood this point? Journal entry you can do by your own. Means journal entry will be current service cost account debit, net interest cost account debit, correct? Remeasurement loss account debit. Bolo yes or no? Remeasurement loss account debit, correct? Yes sir. Then contribution received means contribution has been paid itna, and this will be net defined liability. So this is one compound journal entry we have done. This is current service cost, net interest cost, remeasurement loss which will be transferred to OCI, to cash means the contribution received by plan asset means the amount of contribution paid to cash. This will be the net defined liability. Net defined liability means increase or decrease in liability. So what is this amount? This amount is nothing but increase or decrease in net liability. So opening net liability was 260, you can see. Closing is what, 350. So you can see there is a increase in liability by what, 45. Increase in liability by 45. Understood. This also you have understood. Let me take one more question. We'll take one more question. Come to question number 30. Come to question number 30. Question 30. A Limited prepare its financial statement to 31st March each year. It operates a defined benefit retirement benefit plan on behalf of current and former employee. A Limited receive advice from actuaries regarding contribution level and overall liability of the plan to pay benefit. On 1st April 2017, actuaries advised that present value of defined benefit obligation is 6 crore. On the same day, the fair value of plan asset is 5 crore 20 lakh. On 1st April 2017, the annual market yield on government bond is 5% discount rate. During the year ended 31st March 2018, A Limited made a contribution of 70 lakh, into plan, and plan paid out benefit of 42 lakh to the retired member. Both these payments were made on 31st March 2018. They given in the question also. The actuaries advised that current service cost is what, 62 lakh. On 20th Feb, the rules of plan was amended with retrospective effect. The rules of plan was amended means there can be some past service cost also. This amendment means that present value of defined benefit obligation increased by 15 lakh. So this is past service cost. This is past service cost. Yes, sir. During the year ended 31st March 2018, A Limited was in negotiation with employee representative regarding the planned redundancies. Redundancy means some employee has been curtailed. The negotiations were completed shortly before the year end and redundancy package were agreed. The impact of this redundancy was to reduce the present value of defined benefit obligation by 80 lakh. So it means the present value of defined benefit obligation will reduced by 80 lakh, will be reduced by 80 lakh. Before 31st March 2018 Limited, before 31st March 2018, A Limited paid rupees 75 lakh to employee affected by redundancy. So this is a payment done. Means this is benefit paid. This is benefit paid. So 70 lakh, 5 lakh is paid. So 125 lakh paid. It will affect both defined benefit obligation and what? Defined benefit obligation plan asset, and 80 lakh minus this will be what? Gain on settlement. So what is gain on settlement? 5 lakh is the gain on settlement. Yes, sir. Then this payment was made out of the asset of the retirement benefit plan. Given in the question, also not given, then also we'll assume this. On 31st March 2018, the actuaries advised that present value of defined benefit obligation is 6 crore 80 lakh, and on the same day fair value is what? Fair value plan asset is what? 5 crore 60 lakh. Examine and present how the above event would be reported in financial statement of A Limited as per Ind AS. Means we need to prepare extract of financial statement and means balance sheet and PL with reconciliation also. So if you prepare reconciliation, how will prepare reconciliation, that we need to understand. Correct. So can I say, just try to understand key, what we'll do, we'll find out what? A reconciliation statement. You can see I have already prepared. So this is DBO, This is plan asset, and we are doing in what? We are means it is the figures are given in crore, so we are writing in lakhs. This is what? Rupees in lakhs. Chalega? Okay. So we are writing is what? 6 crore. 6 crore. So we are writing in lakhs. Okay, sir? Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Now, carrying amount at the beginning, this is the opening liability, this is the opening asset. Yes, sir. Then we'll find out net interest cost. Net interest cost will be calculated by using discount rate. That is given what? Discount rate is given how much? 5%. I think the 5% of 600 will be this, 5% of 520 will be this. The net interest cost means net interest cost is how much? Net interest cost is what? 4. Correct? Yes, sir. Then contribution received is 70 lakh. Then benefit paid. So there are two time benefit paid. One is 42 lakh, one is 75 lakh. So you can write down together, or you can write down separately, your choice. So this is 42 lakh, 42 lakh, and there is one benefit paid 75 lakh, 75 lakh. Yes, sir. Then current service cost is given how much? 62 lakh. Then past service cost is given 15. Are you able to understand? Yes, sir. Then gain on settlement will do minus. So gain on settlement minus, this become what? This become the carrying amount before remeasurement. So this become carrying amount. Now we'll compare with the carrying amount at year end. Carrying amount at year end. So you can see the liability increases. So this is loss, and asset also increases. This is gain. So loss gain. So there is a net loss of what? 34. Net loss of 34, which will be transferred to OCI. Remeasurement loss. This is remeasurement loss, which will be transferred to OCI. Understood? Correct. Extract you can prepare. Extract you can prepare. Correct. So can I say this will be transferred to PL? Correct. This will be transferred to PL. This will be transferred to PL. Yes, sir. This will be transferred to PL. Yes, sir. Correct. And this will be transferred to OCI. This will be transferred to OCI. I hope you have understood this entire point. Very simple. So with this, I have covered a varieties of question. Now it is your duty to do the balance question. Yes, sir. We will do it. Yes, sir. So we completed with this. We completed what post employment benefit. Now we'll come to long term employment benefit, and some benefit that will not take much time. That will not take much time. Much time. So long term employment benefit is what? Other long term employment benefit include following item if not expected to be settled within 12 months after the end of the period in which employee rendered related service. So it will include long-term paid absences, jubilee or other long-term benefit, long-term disability benefit, profit sharing bonus, deferred remuneration, etc. Recognition and measurement is similar to defined benefit plan for post-employment benefit with only one difference. Only one difference is what? In this case, remeasurement gain or loss on long-term employee benefit will be recognized in PL. It will not be transferred to OCI. Only this is the difference. Balance entire point remain same. I hope you can do it by your own. Yes, sir. Termination benefit. Termination benefit is due to the entity decision to terminate an employee or employee decision to opt voluntary retirement. Yes, sir. What they said, entities should recognize termination benefit as an expense and liability when following conditions are satisfied. When there is a present obligation of termination, an amount of obligation can be measured reliably. Correct? Understood? Yes, sir. Now, when to recognize the liability? What Ind AS 19 says, it is the earlier of, it is the earlier of when the company can no longer withdraw the offer of those benefit. Means when the company can no longer withdraw the offer to those benefit, and when the company recognize cost of restructuring and involve the payment of termination benefit, whichever is earlier. Means we have done under India's 37 provision for restructuring. So if that comes before point number A, then you can recognize termination benefit at that point of time also. Understood? Yes, sir. Then how to recognize it will depend upon when it is payable. So if it is payable within 12 months, within 12 months from the reporting date, wholly before 12 months, then it will be recognized at undiscounted amount. And if it is payable to be settled, means expected to be settled wholly after, wholly before, sorry, if the termination benefit are not expected to be settled wholly before 12 months after the end of reporting period, means it is payable after 12 months from reporting date, then it will be on discounted basis. It will be on discounted basis. Understood? Have you understood? With this we completed Ind AS 19. Ind AS 19 हो गया. We completed Ind AS 19. I hope you have understood this chapter. Correct? Ind AS 19 done. Any doubt? Yes, sir. So if you have understood Ind AS 19, we'll take one more Ind AS. Let us take one more Ind AS. Which Ind AS will take? Ind AS 108. Ind AS 108. Operating segment. Ind AS 108 operating segment. Very simple, but a question can be asked of 10 marks from this chapter. Should be very careful, because if these are the chapter, if you are not revising, you can do one simple mistake and your 10 marks will be gone from exam, means from your life. Understood? Nothing. You should very much care about a small chapter. Operating segment. So what is the meaning of operating segment? Can you say operating segment are component of the entity? Are the component of the entity that is engaged in the business activity for which it may earn revenue and incur expense. It is engaged in the business activity for which it may earn income or may earn revenue and incur expense, whose operating results are reviewed by CODM, whose operating results are reviewed by CODM. CODM is what? Chief Operating Decision Maker, and for which discrete financial informations are available. Discrete financial information means separate financial information are available, means we can find out what are the asset allocated to that particular component, what are liability allocated to for that particular segment. Understood? So operating segment is a component of the entity that is engaged in the business activity, correct, now, for which it may earn revenue and incur expenses, correct, which whose operating results are reviewed by CODM, and for which discrete financial information are available. Can I say if operating results are reviewed, for review discrete financial information must be available. If discrete financial information are not available, then review is not possible. So point number B and point number C are interlinked. Point number B and point number C are interlinked. Correct now. Can I say in this way, operating CGU operating segment can be either a CGU, cash generating unit. You know cash generating unit? Cash generating unit are the smallest identifiable asset which are capable of generating cash flow independently from other CGU. Correct. It can be group of CGU. It can be group of CGU. It can be a part of CGU also. Part of CGU also. Are you getting what I'm saying? It can be part of CGU also. Correct. So operating segment can be a CGU or a group of CGU, or it can be a part of CGU. Correct now? Yes, sir. Now business activity can be with external party, or it can be with other segment also. So when we say business activity, it does not mean only with external party. If any component is producing some output and that output is internally transferred, then also it will be considered as what? Business. Now operating segment can be identified either based on product or based on location or based on customer. Based on customer means I always give example. If I say my business, so based on product, my operating segment will be what? Based on product, my operating segment will be what? So my product is what? CA inter accounts, CA inter account. Are you getting what I'm saying? Bolo. My operating segment based on product will be what? CA inter account, CA inter advance account, CA final, CA final FR, CA final FR, CA final GFRS, CA final GFRS. Can I say these are my product based on product? So I can have operating segment based on this. Then based on location. So based on location, I used to teach in Hyderabad initially. Hyderabad. I used to also teach in Bangalore. Correct. I have also been to Kolkata. So these are what? These are what? My operating segment based on location. And if I say based on customer, can I say based on customer? It can be face to face classes. It can be what? Recorded classes. Recorded classes. It can be virtual classes with some franchisee. Correct now. Virtual classes. So I have these three type of class of customer. Some customer want face to not customer. You are not my customer. Correct now. Some student want what? Face to face class. Some student want what? Recorded classes. Some student want what? Virtual classes. Now I have added one more. It is what? Live online classes. Correct now. So these are what? Live online classes. Means initially when I started this live online classes, they were what? 100 inquiry, but out of 100, can I say 20? Out of 100, only 12 to 13 students joined live online. All shifted to recorded. All shifted to recorded classes. Means can I say it is based on the class of customer. It is based on the class of customer. So this can be my operating segment. But can I say we need to identify either I need to make operating segment based on this or based on this or based on this. Can I say it is based on entire management decision? Means I will decide कि my segment will be based on what? Segment will be based on what? Product or location or what? Class of customer. In my case, can I say I have appointed manager, I have appointed means employee, I have appointed employee based on class of what? Based on class of customer. Means I have an employee who will take care of face-to-face classes. Now due to COVID-19, there is no face-to-face classes. Correct now. So I am paying remuneration to that person without any work. Now I have an employee who is totally engaged in recorded classes. Means he will be totally focused on recorded classes. Means I have one employee. Means for basically for virtual classes I will only take care, I will only discuss with franchisee, and for live online classes I have one newly appointed employee who will take care of my all live employee class. Live online classes means he will take care of app, whether the system is operating properly or not, whether studio is okay or not. He will take care of this. Means can I say I have appointed one set of employee. Means I want my operating segment to be based on what? Class of customer. Okay, so based on class of customer. Understood? Correct. Now what they say? Correct. What they say? Every component of the entity is not operating segment. Means if I say corporate head office, they are not, even though they are a component, but they will not generate any revenue. The corporate head office, etc., or research and development department will not be an operating segment. For operating segment, that segment must earn, should be capable of generating revenue. Should be capable of generating revenue. Correct now. So when I say an operating segment may engage in business for which it has to earn revenue. Means if they are capable of generating revenue, means still the revenue has not earned, but they are capable, means it may earn revenue, then also it will be an operating segment. Understood this point? Yes sir, we have understood. We have understood. Now identification of operating segment. Identification of operating segment. So CODM has to identify operating segment of an entity. CODM is Chief operating decision maker. Who is CODM? CODM can be a person or group of person whose function is to allocate resources and assess the performance of the entity. In other words, he is responsible for operating performance. Correct. So how to identify operating segment? First question we'll ask, is the component is able to generate revenue? If yes, then the results are reviewed by CODM. If the answer is yes, is the discrete financial information? If the answer is yes, then it become an operating segment. Then it become an operating segment. I hope you have understood this point. Yes, sir. We have understood. Correct. Then aggregation criteria. Aggregation criteria means two or more than two operating segment can be combined and can be taken as a one operating segment if any of the following aspect satisfied. What they say, two or more operating segment may be aggregated in single operating segment if the segment has similar economic characteristics and segment are similar in each of the following aspects. Segment are similar in each of the following aspect. Correct now. For example, nature of product or services. Nature of product or services. Are you getting what I'm saying? Correct. Now, just try to understand. If I say face-to-face class, it is totally different. But when I say recorded classes and live online classes, the nature is same because I need to record it. I need to take class, that is what recording. Then I need to what do a same type of process. So this become that nature of product and service similar. So we can combine it. We can combine it and we can make it what one segment. So if the nature of product or services are same, nature of production process, of course their production process are same, nature of production process are same, then we can combine. Class of customer are same, class of customer are same, method used to distribute that product are same, method used to distribute that product are same, nature of regulatory environment are same, nature of regulations are same. So if they are similar in respect of this, then we can combine, otherwise will not combine. So a question may ask a top from this topic, so you need to do rectification of this point and you write down this only, then you will get marks. Now yes sir, we can do it, we are good in rectification, we can do. Yes sir. Now next point is reportable segment. Reportable segment, this is very important from examination point of view. Very important from examination point of view. Reportable segment, what they say, once you identify operating segment 1 2 3 4 5 6 7, either based on product or based on class of customer or based on location, that is not a problem. Means once you have identified operating segment, now out of these some segment will be reportable and for some segment reporting is not required. So these are reportable segment. So when a segment become reportable, that we need to understand. So for reportable segment, disclosure is required separately. Disclosure is required separately. But what India's 108 says, for the segment which are not reportable, you need to also disclose it for reconciliation required. So we'll combine it and their information will disclose in a consolidated way for reconciliation purpose. We'll discuss this point. I've just informed you. So when a segment will become a reportable segment, when it satisfies any of the following criteria. The first criteria is based on quantitative threshold limit, QT, we call it QT. So first criteria is based on quantitative threshold criteria. So there are 3 points in this. What they say, an entity shall report information separately about each operating segment that meet any one of the following QT based on segment revenue. So what they say, segment revenue is 10% or more, 10% or more of total segment revenue. So if segment revenue of operating segment is 10% more of total segment revenue, then it will be a reportable segment. Correct. Based on segment result, what they say, segment result is 10% more of either combined result in terms of profit or combined result in terms of loss, whichever is greater in absolute terms. So we need to find out combined result in terms of profit, we need to find out combined result in terms of loss. First we need to find out greater, then we'll find out 10% of that, then sorry, we'll find out percentage of that. If it is 10% or more, then it become an operating segment. For example, just try to understand. A, B, C, D, E. There is a profit of 100. There is a loss of 10. There is a profit of 10. There is a loss of 200 and profit of 500. Are you getting what I'm saying? So what they say, first find out combined result in terms of profit. So this becomes 610. Then find out combined result in terms of loss. This becomes 210. Take the absolute figure. Absolute figure means removing negative sign. Whichever is higher. So this is higher. This is higher. Now take percentage of result in terms of 610. So this will become 100 divided by 610 is equal to 16.39%. This become 10 divided by 610. This is what? 0. Means it is 1.6. 1.6. This will be also 1.6. This will be 200 divided by 610. This will be 32.78. This will be what? 500 divided by 610. This will be 81.96. So this is 10% or more. This is 10% or more. This is 10% or more. You can see we have taken all the segment which have what? Which have higher profit and higher loss also. So that any segment which are making higher loss, that also become reportable. That also become reportable. Understood? I hope you have understood this point. Now based on segment asset, what they say, segment asset is 10% more of total segment asset, Understood? So total segment asset, this you can do by your own. Correct? We'll take one question, nothing to worry. But have you understood this point? Yes, sir. Then second criteria is management discretion. Management discretion. Correct. Means as per the management discretion, any segment can be operating segment even if it does not meet QT limit, even though it does not satisfy QT limit. So operating segment that do not meet any one of the QT may be considered as operating segment reportable at the discretion of management. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Then previous year reportable segment, what they said, any operating segment which are reportable during the previous preceding financial year as it meet QT criteria, means as per point number A, not as per point number B. Correct now? So what they say, any operating segment which were reportable in previous year as per point number A should be reportable during current financial year even if it no longer meet QT criteria. Even if it no longer meet QT criteria. I hope you have understood. Correct now. So this point number B and C normally they do not ask in exam. They ask point number A and point number D. Point number D is also important. What they say. If the total external revenue, if the total external revenue reported by operating segment, external revenue means revenue as per revenue which will be transferred to SOPL, means external revenue means excluding inter-segment revenue. So when we say segment revenue, one point I forgot to say, this segment revenue will be equal to external sale plus inter-segment sale plus inter-segment sale. Are you getting what I am saying? So when I am saying based on segment revenue means what? External revenue plus what? Inter-segment sale. Yes, sir, we have understood. Yes, sir. So what is the point number D? Point number D is what? If total external sale reported by operating segment constitute less than 75% of entity's revenue. Entity's revenue means total external sale which is transferred to PL. So entity's revenue is also what? Total external sale. Total external sale. Are you getting what I am saying? Which is transferred to SOPL. So only external sale will be transferred to SOPL. Inter-segment sale will never be transferred to SOPL. So if total external revenue reported by operating segment constitute less than 75% of entity's revenue, then additional operating segment shall be identified as reportable segment until at least 75% of entity's revenue are included in reporting segment. Understood this point? Have you understood this point? Let us take one question. Let us take so that you can understand. First question number 5. You can see X Limited has identified the following business component. You can see pharma, FMCG, Ayurveda, others. External they have given, internal they have given, result they have given, asset they have given. Yes sir. Yes sir. Correct. Now, so can I say we'll find out first segment revenue. So segment revenue will take external plus internal sale both. So it is pharma, FMCG, Ayurveda, other. Ayurveda, other. So what is total? It is 97 lakh, 97 lakh, then 4 lakh, correct? Then this is 3 lakh, then this is 8 plus 41. How much? It is 49 lakh. Total become how much? 97 plus 4 plus 3 plus 81 is equal to 185 lakh. Yes sir. 97 plus 4 plus 3 plus 49. This is 153 lakh. Correct. Now we can find out percentage. 97 by these, 4 by these, 3 by these, 49 by these. Correct. Now we can find out percentage. The percentage will come how much? It will be based on segment revenue. It will be 63 point. This percent is already calculated. It will be 63.40, 2.61, 1.96 and 32.03. So of course this is reportable and this is reportable. Based on revenue, can I say pharma and others are reportable. Now based on total profit, you can see they have not given any loss. So only will take combined results of profit. So combined result of profit, it will be this is reportable and this is reportable. Yes sir. And based on asset, this is reportable and this is reportable. Correct. It means can I say pharma, FMCG and others are reportable. Means Ayurveda is not reportable. Ayurveda is not reportable. Correct. So this is based on QT. Based on QT, can I say pharma, FMCG and others are reportable. Now we'll need to also check the last point. Last point was that if the external sales included in the reportable operating segment do not constitute less than 75%. Correct. Now that point also we need to check. So now external sale of pharma is 97 and others FMCG nil and others 8. Total become what? 97 plus 8, that is 105, divided by 108 is equal to what? 105 divided by 108 is equal to, this is 97%. So can I say it is already more than 75% of entity's revenue. Therefore no need to add any additional segment. Therefore the condition is satisfied. Then pharma, FMCG and others are reportable segment. I hope you understood this point. Correct. Understood. You can read this. I hope you will understand. Understood. Now question number 6, let us take. Now they have given X Limited has identified 4 operating segment: external sale, internal sale, total they have given. So as per percentage, we'll take what? 30 by 1 means this is 30%, this is 6.5%, this is 9.5%, this is 54%. So as per QT, these two are reportable. These two are reportable. Yes, sir. But now we'll find out a percentage of external sale reportable by total external sale. So this is reportable and this is reportable, which is 35 divided by 50, 35 divided by 50, 35 divided by 50 is equal to 70%. 70% means, can I say it is not equal covering the 75% of entity's revenue. Therefore additional segment is required to be added. Therefore either you can add B or you can add C, and depending on that you need to give your answer. If you read answer what they have given, in case of X Limited, it is given that segment C is a new business unit and management expect that this segment to make significant contribution to external revenue in coming year. In accordance with the requirement of Ind AS 108, X Limited designate the startup segment C as the reportable segment, making the total external revenue attributable to reportable segment 87%. Alternatively, segment B can be considered as reportable segment as well as it meet the definition of operating segment. If segment B considered as reportable segment, external revenue reported is equal to 41,50,000. Percentage of total external revenue will be 83%. So either you can add C or you can add B also as per your choice. As per your choice means I will say become management and add as per your choice and give an alternative solution also. You can add alternative segment also. Understood? Yes sir, understood. This also you have understood. Now preparation of segment report. Now everyone, preparation of segment report. So what means segment report means, now we are discussing disclosure requirement. So normally in exam they will ask you to prepare segment report and you need to disclose all the item. Disclosure requirement. So what is segment report may have two part. If there is a matrix form of organization, now it means I need to inform you what is the matrix form of organization, and it will be based on primary segment report and secondary segment report. So what is the matrix form of organization? Means entity normally does not have matrix form of organization, but a large, normally big entity may have matrix form of organization. What is the matrix form of organization? For example, we have product 1, product 2 and product 3, and we have appointed manager who review the operating result for this. We have location 1, location 2, location 3, and we have also appointed manager who review the result of each location. Means can I say operating result of product as well as what location is reviewed by management means CODM. So can I say we can have operating segment based on product also, we can have operating segment based on location also. So normally what happen, an entity, for example I said I have an operating segment based on customer. So normally it may be either based on product or based on customer or based on location, but this can be also possible situation. So this is known as what matrix form of organization. So in this case management need to decide which is the primary segment report. Means primary segment report is that uh, primary segment is that segment on which means which will provide more reliable information to the user of financial statement. Correct now? So that management will decide which is primary, which is secondary. So if this is primary, this will become secondary, and if this is primary, this will become secondary. Are you getting what I'm saying? Now for primary segment report, 7 information need to be disclosed, and if it is secondary, 3 information need to be disclosed. Understood what I'm saying? I hope you have understood what I am saying. Yes sir, we have understood. Correct? So primary segment report, 7 information need to be disclosed. For secondary segment report, 3 information need to be disclosed. If question is silent now, so from the question we need to understand which one is primary, which one is secondary. Means if they have given 7 information for product, it means that become primary. If they have given 7 information for location, that become primary. So other one will become what? Secondary. Are you able to understand? Yes sir, we are able to understand. Correct. Now how to prepare segment report? First is primary segment. Now in this we write down reportable segment, and whatever segment which are not reportable, that will be consolidated in one segment, and that will be known all other reconciling segment. All other reconciling segment for reconciliation purpose. This become total. Correct? And so first disclosure is about segment revenue. So in this we write on external revenue, inter-segment revenue, and other operating revenue. Understood? Other operating revenue. Understood? And the segment revenue, this is the segment revenue. But can I say this segment revenue will not match with PL? Why it will not match with SOPL? Because this include internal sale also. So are you getting what I am saying? Yes sir. Therefore we'll do, for reconciliation purpose, we'll do less inter-segment sale. Correct now? And this will become what? This will become entity revenue as per SOPL. Understood? Yes sir. First is revenue. Second is result. Second is result. Correct. Second is what? Result. Second is result. Correct. Understood. First is revenue. Understood. Second we need to write down segment result. Segment result. So segment result will be given in the question. If not given, then they will give segment revenue and segment expense. So segment revenue minus segment expense will be segment result. Segment result. Correct now. All the information will be given in the question. Only you need to put data in this report. Correct now. So this becomes segment result. This segment result is operating profit before interest and tax and exceptional item. So this is only operating profit of that particular segment. Correct now. From this we'll do some adjustment because this will not match with the profit for the period from SOPL. Correct now. So we'll do less interest expense, less HO expense, head office expense are not allocated, add or less exceptional item, so that become profit before tax. From this less tax expense, current tax, deferred tax, this become profit for the period. This become profit for the period. Understood? Yes, sir. We have understood. Correct. Then we write down segment asset. Segment asset. So in this we write down segment fixed asset, not segment property, plant, equipment, segment intangible asset. Correct now. And then segment current asset. This will become total segment asset. In this we'll add unallocated asset which are not a part of segment, So in this we'll add investment, deferred tax asset, unallocated asset. This become total asset. So all the information which are not given segment wise, that are what? Allocated asset, unallocated asset. So all the information in the exam question which are not given segment wise, that will be required for reconciliation purpose. I hope you are understanding correct. Then we write down equity and liability, means segment liability. Yes, sir. So we write down segment borrowing, segment current liabilities. This will become total segment liability. In this we'll add DTL, unallocated liability. This will become total liability, but this will not match with the total asset. To match with the total asset in balance sheet, we'll also write down equity, share capital, other equity. So this will become total equity and liability. So first is what? Segment revenue. Second is what? Segment result. Third is what? Segment asset. Fourth is what? Segment liability. And fifth is what? Other disclosure. Other disclosure will be capital expenditure of that segment. Means any asset purchase, any PP purchase, any intangible asset acquired, that need to be disclosed. But for this, reconciliation is not required. Then segment depreciation and amortization during that period. For this also reconciliation is not required. For then segment other non-cash expenses, for this also reconciliation is not required. This become the 7 information to be disclosed for this, and 5, 6 and 7. Understood? Understood. Then secondary segment, it can be either, means if the primary is based on product, so this will be based on location. Correct? Yes, sir. So in this also reportable segment and all other reconciling segment. Correct. But for this we don't do reconciliation. For this reconciliation is not required. So in this first we write on external sale, not segment revenue. Only external sale need to be disclosed. External sale need to be disclosed. Then segment asset need to be disclosed. Then segment capital expenditure need to be disclosed. So only 3 information: external sale, segment asset and segment capital expenditure need to be disclosed. Understood? I hope you have understood. Let me take one question based on this. Correct. Question number 7. Question number 7. Correct. X Limited is an operating in coating industry. Its business segment comprise coating and other consisting of chemical, polymers and related activities. Certain information for the financial year they have given: external sale and tax, other operating income, result, asset, liability. You can see everything is given. Unallocated revenue net of expense, this is required for reconciliation. Interest and bank charge required for reconciliation. Income tax expense required for reconciliation. Investment unallocated is required for reconciliation. Unallocated liability, reserve and surplus share capital required for reconciliation. Depreciation required for disclosure. Capital expenditure required for disclosure. Revenue from outside India, so this is based on location. Outside India means based on location. So these all information are based on product. Last point number 8 they have given based on location. So can I say primary will be based on product, secondary will be based on location. So revenue from outside India and segment asset outside India. Based on above, how X Limited will disclose information about reportable segment PL assets and liability for financial year. Correct. So segment information when you prepare, first you give information about operating segment. So there are two operating segment. One is coating, one is what? Other. Coating and other. So coating consisting of decorative, automotive, this is given. Other consisting of chemical, polymer and related activities. Correct now. Then we'll disclose this information. You can understand what is written. Correct now. First revenue. So we write on external sale. Then less taxes. Less taxes. So it has been assumed that this external sale is gross. Means sale is inclusive of GST. However, it is wrong assumption, I will say. When we record sale, it is always excluding GST. But in the suggested answer, it is assumed that it is what? It is gross, means inclusive of GST, which is wrong assumption, but we need to follow suggested solution. Panga Matlo Institute say yes, sir. So tax, this become net external sale. Then other operating income. So this become total revenue, and there is no inter-segment sale given, so no reconciliation required. Then result, segment result is given. Then we'll do what? Reconciliation with what? Unallocated expense, unallocated income net of expense, then interest net of expense, correct now. Then interest and bank charges, this become profit before exceptional item, this become exceptional item, this become profit before tax, then current tax, deferred tax, this become profit for the period. Yes sir, yes sir. Then other information asset, segment asset is given. Then in this we'll add investment and unallocated asset, this become total asset. Then liabilities and shareholders fund, so we start with segment liabilities given. In this we'll add unallocated liabilities, share capital reserve and surplus, this will be total equity and liability. Then others, capital expenditure, depreciation, capital expenditure given, depreciation given, you can see it is given. Yes sir, correct now. Then geographical information means this is secondary business report, so it is India, outside India. Now external revenue, segment asset, capital expenditure, so this total we know, so sale is what? Total is what? 3,79,000, 17,000. Segment asset means segment asset total is what? 80,000. And capital expenditure total is 5 plus to 7,000. This total we know. Correct. Then this information is given the question ki how much revenue outside India, how much asset outside India, how much capital expenditure outside India, not given nil. So this will become India. This is the balancing figure. I hope you have understood the entire chapter. Entire chapter you have understood. Yes sir. So this question is very important question. This question is very important question. You can do it by your own. Means one thing we have assumed that is other operating income is a part of segment revenue. Is a part of segment revenue because they have written operating and they have given segment wise. So this need to be also taken. So other operating income. So other operating income can be revenue. They have said segment revenue. Correct now. So other income are not revenue, but operating income can be revenue. So we are assuming this is a part of revenue. You can write down as per Ind AS 115. This is considered as revenue. Therefore, it is included. Correct now. So other income are not included. Revenues are included. Revenues are included. Understood? I hope you have understood. Correct. So we have completed Ind AS 19, we have completed Ind AS 19, we have completed Ind AS 108, we have also completed financial instrument chapter today. Correct now. Understood? Yes sir. So for today this much only. Thank you very much. We'll meet tomorrow. Till then bye bye. Take care. Enjoy your remaining day. Bye bye.